All kinds of security challenges continue to dog different parts of the country. In the past week alone, Sokoto, Borno, Kaduna, Imo states recorded different levels of insecurity, and that's just those that we are able to report. There are several others that may never get reported. Banditry, kidnapping that happen in pockets of communities, and many of which are possibly not even known to the police, and those known to the police are perhaps even too many to count or to even contend with. Well, two gentlemen joined us this morning to look at some of these issues and the resultant impact presently, and perhaps long-lasting effects if not checked as quickly as possible. Major General Henry Ayola is a former commander of Special Task Force and Operation Safe Haven. He joins us here in the studio. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
We also have Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, who is a former Navy intelligence officer, also here with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Ayo.
Yeah, we tried to secure the presence of the Director of Defense Media Operations, but it's not available yet. Hopefully, we will get him to talk on these issues as well, at least what is being done about it. Well, General, one of the things that has been said about this over and over again is the need for collaboration among, security agencies. And one is wondering, that's on the one hand. On the other hand are the non-kinetic interventions that have also been mentioned severally by former army chiefs and all of that, and unemployment, social inequality and all those things. And one wonders, exactly where are we? Or are we just, is all hope lost?
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, I'm an overly optimist, and there is no point at which you can say hope is lost. As long as there is life, there is hope. For me, it's a transition phase and part of the transition crisis of an upcoming nation like ours. And so if we understand it from that dimension, the onus is on us to rise to the occasion.
When you say transition,
yes.
From what to what? From where to where?
Very good. In development studies, the nations pass through several phases. In the first place, our case is a little peculiar in the sense that we've been running the country assuming that we are a nation. We have not taken the deliberate steps to craft a nation state out of this multinational entity. So far, and that's how you find the issue of nationhood, issues of national interest, issues of defining the Nigerian citizen, devoid of ethno-religious considerations, the issues of what is the common good, and all of those. They keep haunting us because we have left undone the most fundamental things, the foundational issues of nationhood.
You're talking about politics.
Yes.
What's this got to do with insecurity?
Oh, insecurity indeed is an outplay of political problems. Political problems from time immemorial, from the beginning of man, has always played out as security issues, as security challenges from the beginning.
My apologies. Maybe I should make it a little more specific. What's all these things you're talking about got to do with banditry, which is, I mean, it's what's the Franco Bao of the police called commercial crimes. These are commercial crimes. So what's that got to do with politics?
Thank you very much. Well, a lot. I mean, usually I talk about interconnectivity of issues. There's really nothing that is isolated in itself. Life is inherently intertwined, complex, interconnected, and we're all interdependent. That's how nature is. You can't isolate one thing, and disconnect it from the rest of other things. So if you look at it that way, banditry in itself, if you look at banditry, what is it? Is actions or activities of some outlaws, some robbers, part of a gang, who are doing things that are banned, things that are illegal. Okay, but that was the original setting. In fact, banditry in this country goes back to the early 94, 98, around that period, when the internal crisis in some of our neighboring countries, began to play out with some of their people spilling over, crossing our borders, in the northeastern part of the country initially, And at that time, there was a task force that was set up called Task Force 20, which metamorphosed to the multinational joint task force with the headquarters in Baga. Now, that was the origin. That was the primary point of banditry in Nigeria. But it has since then snowballed from that. It has become a platform for infiltration of Boko Haram and ISWAP. So, in fact, right now we have about 5 different components of bandits in Nigeria with different backgrounds. So, lumping them up into one single, mold will not even help us to solve the problem. We got to isolate the different components and deal with them based on their foundation, their background, their nature, their propensities, and all of that.
You have to give us those details a little more. But let me, first of all, let me have the opening comments of Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma on this issue. First of all, do you agree with him?
Yes, of course. The interconnectivity of things, of the system, even the world system. If you think you can isolate yourself or banditry and think it is not related to the happenings politically or economically or even nationally, then I think you'll be making a big mistake. If we try to solve our security problems by just focusing on security issues, leaving out the causes, the causative factors, we are likely to end up where we are today. You cannot divorce, for example, the fact that very few people see themselves as Nigerians. Even leaders, national leaders in the political space, have not demonstrated that vision of one Nigeria. You see them projecting and promoting their faiths and their ethnic leanings higher and above the national interest. So, without vision, people cast off restraint. When there is no vision of one Nigeria, and you begin to pull in different directions, direction of your ethnic group, and how many are we? In hundreds, or faith. What you end up with is confusion. So I believe that we need to stop pretending that we have a nation.
How we get that done will be a major question to ask. How we even begin to contemplate looking at these issues that you gentlemen are raising is what's a little befuddling, because at the end of the day, it will seem like it's the citizens that are cannon fodder. But let's explore this a little further after this break. All right, I guess there is no break then. So let's continue this conversation. So maybe let me stay with you for a little while, Lieutenant Danjuma. The people, at the end of the day, are the ones that suffer. The people are the ones that at the end, they bear the brunt of all of this insecurity. And most insecurity is local. So I'm just wondering how we're able to look at macroeconomic issues from the micro levels that we've been looking at it. So that's just the question I'm asking. It's the people at the lower levels, the local levels, the remote areas that suffer the most.
Therefore, so your question clearly, what's your question? The
question there is, if it's the people that are suffering, the people at the local levels, they are the ones that bear the brunt of these things. All the permutations that you're talking about, politics, interconnected ideas, how do we help the people?
Well, that's very easy. I think we need to go back to how our leaders, evolve. How do we raise up leaders in Nigeria? If you listen to the news, for example, what you hear is the president has to come, 2023, the president has to come from this area, and most of the discussions are based not on the qualities expected of a national leader. The focus is on, it is our turn now. We have been cheated for so long, so it is our turn. And whilst we are busy focusing on such issues, irrelevant, in my opinion, to national development, we end up choosing people who are incompetent, who do not have the vision, and they just turn the situation into the kind of topsy-turvy confusion we have. So I believe that one of the first things we should do is to ask ourselves, how do we choose our leaders? For me, I've always said that it's an aberration when you are building a town, for example, you allow the town to just evolve. And then when the development doesn't suit progress or movement, you now start breaking houses. Then the political system or the evolution of political parties or the political parties that should evolve, you are now structuring them. For example, saying that before you form a political party, you have to have federal character, you have to have offices in Abuja, Once the political space, is not open for people with ideas, only people who have money, only people who are close to those who have money, you end up only with money bags who may not necessarily have the interests of the poor people at heart. And as the leadership goes, everything rises and falls on leadership. If the leaders don't get it right, I don't think we should reasonably expect the followers, to follow suit or to provide the leadership.
But again, that raises even more questions. But let's stay with security because, that really is the conversation that we're having now. Just recently also, we understand that the Chief of Army Staff has warned of possible increase in activities of bandits. Just the same way at the beginning of last year when, COVID-19 hadn't really, penetrated the system, the police said there's going to be an increase in domestic, crime, misdemeanor, misbehavior, offenses that will literally jar us. So it's not like we don't know that these things are going to happen. Increase in activities of bandits. That's already been speculated by the Chief of Army Staff, and it is saying it's going to happen in the year ahead. Can we mitigate this?
Well, you are making it difficult for me to focus on the solutions because you are saying that, let's go back to security. As you are just speaking, as you're just talking, I remember a few days ago around Ojodu when the truck, crushed those students, I saw the ferocity, the anger, of children, just less than 20 years, the anger they expressed, they were throwing cudgel stones and reacting in such, you would be afraid, to see the level of animosity, the antagonism that these children were expressing, which reminded me of the COVID-19, what do you call it, when they broke into the warehouses where they were supposed to be palliatives and start distributing. Now, if you factor that, the economic situation and what the government is saying, that by next year, is it February, they are planning to remove the fuel subsidy. Imagine the level of misery. Right now, we have the largest population of dirt poor, of wretched people in the world. Are you telling me that there is no connection between the level of misery, the level of deprivation and hopelessness, and patriotism, and crime. So I believe that we need to speak sense to ourselves. We need to remind those who are comfortably sitting down thinking that all is well, that wherever you have young men who are hungry, you know, wherever you have young men who are destitute, then you cannot, no matter the kind of security system that you design, it's not going to work because, as you said, in the various localities scattered all over the length and breadth of this nation are young people who have no hope.
Okay. Well, there's so much to talk about on this because, as General Ayola has said, we can't lose hope, but we have to do what we need to do. What do we need to do? More on that after this break. Well, thank you for staying with us. Major General Henry Ayola, former commander of Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven, is still here with us, along with Lieutenant Commander John Dajuma, former Navy intelligence officer. General, let me come back to you. The issues that we are dealing with as far as insecurity is concerned, they are not new, or are they?
That's a good question. They are not new in one breath, but in the second breath, some of them are new. Some, I mean, we are talking of a whole gamut of security challenges that have come to a head. So when we talk of newness, the issue of banditry, for example, like I told you, the origin, and I say it has snowballed from that initial beginning, which was like casual robbers who just needed to survive and all of that. But now it's become a platform. You know, like you said at the beginning, it's become a commercial platform for some. There is a component of banditry that is actually a clash of ethnic clash, you know, that started it off. Okay? There is a component, the Boko Haram ISWAP component, that became the cover for them to infiltrate to different parts of the country. So that while we're still thinking that they are in the northeast, surreptitiously, clandestinely, they have gotten themselves to other parts of the country. And that's what happened, so that, we, you know, under that cover, they can carry on with their original agenda unnoticed. So those are some part of the new manifestation of the same problem. You know, so that's what is going on.
Well, so many things to ask you, and Markwe has some of those issues to raise. Markwe?
You know, it is very difficult to know where to start from when you look at the tangent that our security chiefs have taken on the matter this morning. But, you know, we do know that it was not always like this. We do know that we followed, because listening to General Ayola, he said that we're transitioning. And you asked the question, Ayo, rightly, you know, transitioning from what to what? It's a very big question, because if where things were, people were hoping that things would get better politically, and then their lives are now in constant danger. There are questions to be asked of what is happening with the security agencies, what is happening to the leadership of those who are supposed to be steering the security agencies. Where is accountability in all of this? Because it would seem that now so many deaths are occurring and there is nobody being held to account. How can we begin to entrench once again accountability for our citizens from the security agencies and also from political leadership? The question is to General Ayola.
Thank you very much, Markwe. Well, we've gone through this a number of times, even here. But we must keep talking and keep hoping that some of these ideas will one day be implemented. Very clearly, it's obvious that we are dealing with so many issues at the same time. Even the best of the armed forces or security agencies of the world have a limited number of fronts they can engage at the same time. Okay? So let me start with the armed forces in particular, or the army in particular. Okay? I mean, it's obvious, it's been said again and again, that these forces are already overstretched. The army in particular is overstretched. And there's no doubt about that. You're not going to do any magic. We need overwhelming force to take on these issues. In fact, if we isolate Boko Haram and ISWAP alone, we need about 3 times the strength, the armament, the resources that we have right now to deal with that alone. So by the time you add the banditry issues to it, then you're talking of additional forces required, additional resources required. We are not addressing that. So I don't know what we are expecting will happen, because there's no shortcut about that. The military, the police, we are under police, it's been said again and again. I don't know why it is a problem for us to recruit more of these services to get the work done. I mean, I gave the example. When the Civil War started, we had 5 battalions in the army. By the end of the Civil War, we had 4 divisions. Yeah, what happened? Because there was a necessary surge, a boost of the force if we were going to get the work done. So why is that not applying this time around? How many times do we need to go over that? I mean, what are we expecting will happen? If you are trying one thing is not working, how long does it take to switch and try something else? There is a need for emergency recruitment, emergency commissioning, even recall of some officers who retired who are still useful. We don't have a well-articulated policy on reserve for the armed forces as of today. But we can craft one now. There's nothing too late. Solving problems is what life is all about. Okay, so there's so much that can be done that we have not done. So there's still so much. And that's why I'm so hopeful that if we take some of these steps, we can solve these problems. Our armed forces I know the quality of officers and men that we have. The younger generation are actually better than us. This is a generation that are dealing with a maneuverist approach to warfare, to operations. And you need to listen to some of them. I was involved in the training in Prague of the combat support arms services of the army. And I was impressed with the quality of officers that we have. And it's been like that. It's been improving over the years. So it's a matter of giving them what they need to get the work done. That's my take about that.
Okay, well, it doesn't quite answer the question of accountability, because we've seen, the president summoning service chiefs over and over again to the villa, giving them marching instructions, yet nothing seems to be shifted. So let me ask you, Lieutenant Commodore John Dandruma, what precisely is happening? Because for a lot of people, they believe that intelligence is at the heart of this. You worked in the intelligence community for many years. I'm wondering, did we not see this picture? Were we not able to envisage that this is what the problem is? It's one thing for us to lack, certain equipment and not be recruiting at the pace at which we ought to be recruiting. But in terms of envisaging the problems and perhaps even putting some maybe political solutions in place, did we see this coming at all?
Did someone mention Catch-22 situation early? I think yes. General Ayola mentioned something like that. Well, because we do not have enough policemen, we've decided to now bring in the army. Even after bringing in the army, we have discovered that that has not solved the problem. Who was it that first said, the police are meant to serve and protect us, while the army is meant to fight against the enemy? When you bring now the army to do police work, the people they are supposed to protect will now become the enemy. If you remember, the former chief of army staff estimated 20 years that would be how long it would take to solve the terrorism problem. And he mentioned that it is because the various localities are not loyal. They are more loyal to the terrorist groups, than to the military. And therefore, they are open to giving them information about the movement of the military instead of the other way around. So before you even get information or intelligence from any community, you have to be, in good rapport You know, you have to be on friendly terms, communicating with them, you know, like brothers, like friends. But when they see you, as the situation is, anytime you bring in the military, who are trained to fight against your enemy, chances are the information will not flow. And because everything is based on intelligence, you keep on having, you know, these ambushes. How many generals have we lost, you know, based on the information that the locals give to the terrorists? So for me, it is hearts. How do we win the hearts and minds of the Nigerian people? How do we make them seek to protect a system, you know, that doesn't take care of them? You know, we need to see that what flows naturally, patriotism, is actually a reaction. It's not an action. It is a response to something positive that you feel in any society. So if the Nigerian people are treated well, I am telling you, you know, based on experience, that people will even give you more information that you would ask for if they feel that that system, you know, that they are giving the information to, will protect their interests. That's my take.
If it did, because the picture that I mean, you're painting, yes, can apply to the generality of the public. We've seen protests in times past. Just last year, we saw the NSAS protests. We've seen a few protests here and there to try and highlight what you just talked about, how the security agencies now then become enemies of state, so I mean enemies of the people. But speaking more specifically to the banditry in the Northwest, what has been termed, what is actually terrorism? It's now termed terrorism in the Northwest of the country, because initially we thought they had to have an ideology, as we saw in the Northeast. But the manner in which these people have carried out their activities, you know, have now, you know, heightened, or has now made us now call them from, you know, from a court ruling. Now they're now being designated terrorists. But when you look at how they've carried out their activities, they are obviously not protecting the people. So what is it that they're doing for the people that is making the people want to give them information instead of our own security agencies, which is supposed to be protecting the people in the first instance?
Yeah, I think we need to distinguish between banditry and terrorism. We may decide to call banditry terrorism, but terrorism by itself has some political motive, ends behind it. A terrorist causes terror in the hearts of people to paralyze them in order to gain political power. But a bandit actually does it for commercial means, and the way to fix them, you know, is different. A bandit, for example, you know, that is why we have said that since there are so many ungovernable spaces within the Nigerian space, and bandits, you know, crime is fluid, crime is dynamic, but we have a system that is static, you know, and that is already solidified. We need to have a system that evolves, a system that moves even ahead of the terrorists. And that means at the localities, you have a means of fighting and, you know, reducing the response time. You cannot tell me that if communities are attacked, maybe 100 people on motorcycles attack a group of villages, and then they spend like 4 hours, you know, in killing, stealing, and destroying before finally, after they depart, the police or military come. You know, that is an inefficient and irresponsible way of dealing with the situation. We have said that there is nothing wrong, you know, in communities themselves being trained. You know, you look for responsible people within such communities, you train them, you know, on how to handle these weapons and on how to protect themselves, on how to set people who are watchmen who will give early warning of any approaching danger. You know, these things are just simple. If there is, you know, I just wrote something. I said, who are those benefiting? Are there people who are benefiting from this perpetuity, from this this crime and criminality within the nation? Are there people who are benefiting? If there are, then, and I think one thing we should do, I think our president is so cushioned, so far away. We need to, since we say we are practicing the presidential system, you know, we need to have Mr. President come and answer some questions. For example, before, as a candidate, he said at the Chatham House that it won't take him long as a general, you know, that whenever I assumed office, it won't take him long before fixing the security and intelligence problem. Right now, the situation has worsened by all estimations. So we need you people to call him, to call Mr. President to answer why the situation has so worsened and why it is why he shouldn't be held accountable, because you are talking about accountability. The buck stops at Mr. President's table, and he should be able to answer such difficult questions as to why Nigerians are plucked like flies on the road daily.
The question is, how can we then, you know, because there are a lot of worries. Right now, it's only a matter of time as far as some people can see, because initially it was just the Northeast. You choose to use the words, but you choose to stick with the term banditry because you say it doesn't have political leanings. But some people say that it's only a matter of time, and it would seem that these bandits are already taking territory anyway, and they're already commanding swathes of land. If that is not political, they don't know what else is. But I'm wondering, you know, how do we begin to stem the tide? How do we begin to rouse common, let's say, common ground amongst all Nigerians to see that this is a national problem? Because so far so good. We seem to be thinking that, you know, the Northeast had problems. It was only a matter of time before it went to the Northwest. We've seen traces of it in the North Central of the country. Generally, the North, it would seem, has served as some bastion. But it's only a matter of time, it would seem, before things trickle down south. How do we begin to rouse the attention of everyone to know that what we're facing right now in terms of this banditry or terrorism, whatever term we use to, you know, want to use to designate it, is a national emergency, one deserving of all attention? Because much as we might be making progress in infrastructure and in a number of other areas, it will come to naught if, you know, terrorists and bandits take over all of the country. This is for General Ayola.
Thank you very much, Mark. I was just actually itching that I would like to still address the issue of responsibility or accountability that you mentioned at the beginning. The point I was making is, if you give anybody in any setting, if you're a boss, you give your subordinates some assignment, you also know what they require to get the assignment done, because you've gone through that phase before. That's why you're a boss in the first place, at that level. Okay, so you know what it takes to get the work done. Now, if you know you've not given them what it takes to get the work done, then it will be difficult for you to hold them accountable. It will be difficult for you to say, why have they not done this? When you know what they need to do it, they don't have it. Okay, so that's obvious. And then, of course, I mentioned the fact that there are several components of banditry. One of the components, and of course the one that we are finding, which is becoming commercial, is that other people are now seizing that same, under that cover. So you now find people who are even ordinary, perhaps petty thieves before, and taking a chance to say, oh, since this thing is going on, why don't I hide under it and make a few bucks? So we see that happening now. That's another component entirely, okay? But like I said, both Boko Haram and ISWAP have used this also as a platform to extend their reach. And that has happened very subtly, very quietly, and that is even more dangerous for us. And it doesn't even seem we are addressing that yet. Okay? And that's a major challenge waiting to happen, because it means the frontiers have been expanded beyond the Northeast without us giving attention to it. Okay, so again, it still boils down to whatever intelligence is gathered. Intelligent products are not consumed by intelligence agencies. They are supposed to be used by the operators. You know, the entire gamut of the security, you know, arena sector. Okay, and so if those who are supposed to act on the intelligence produced don't have what it takes to act, then the entire efforts of the intelligence community will have been a waste. Like I know, I've said this again and again, a whole lot part of our intelligence community in Nigeria are very professional, very sound guys. I've had the opportunity of operating with some of them, the DSS guys in DIA. We've been on courses together. These are very sound professionals. And they are doing their bit. So, but the end of their own job is the production of the intelligence, that is required. They are not the one going to act on it. So if the people going to act on it don't have what it takes to act on it, then their effort also will look futile. And this is the cycle, the vicious cycle we've been going through. There are people doing their best at different levels, at different points.
Is that then to say, General, that, yes, government knows the problem, government knows the solutions, but government doesn't want to solve it? Is that what you're saying?
Let's look at it this way. Like John said, I don't think anybody is happy at the state of the nation today. I don't think anybody wants to put the nation through this. Whatever the end state, whatever ideology, whatever agenda, whatever program anybody is pursuing. I think there's a point you get to in any pursuit of anything. You stop and ask yourself, what is the profit? What is the gain in pursuing the course for which at the end of the day, in the military parlance, you're fighting a battle. If you win a battle at the cost of losing the entire war, what is your gain? Okay. Or you win a battle at the cost of not just losing the entire war, but losing your people, your troops, your people. What is the gain? I think that's a question we should be throwing back to those who are proponents and drivers of whatever program or ideology that there is.
Okay, just in 30 seconds either way, what then would you have said all the security agencies, apparatus that we have, they have everything that it takes, but they do not have the enablement to do what they need to do. Where then lies the way forward? 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's an appeal to every one of us. While it appears, of course, like Baba B.C. Akonde said in the last meeting last week that he didn't envy the president. I didn't pity him either because he asked for the job. Usually we hold leaders responsible. And like John said, the buck stops at the president's table, no doubt. Of course, the buck, before he gets to the president's table, he must have passed through some levels at the strategic levels of other leaders. Okay. But beyond the leaders, I want all Nigerians to know that, look, this is our problem, not the leadership problem alone. The elite in particular, the elite class is a major solution harbinger if only we play that role as it ought to be. Okay. And so there's a need for elite consensus, there's a need for a conversation that will lead to that. Okay. Because even if you have the best of leadership, the best of president, if the elite class continue in this conspiracy to hold Nigeria where it is, nothing will go.
Commander, 30 seconds.
Yeah, just yesterday in Benin, our neighboring country, I read about a former minister that was found guilty on terrorism charges on Saturday. They actually jailed her for 20 years. So we should also look at political opponents, because because she's a woman, I may not swallow that story. We should realize that some people are so blinded by their political ambitions that they could be funding or supporting, these acts of terrorism and criminality.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, there's definitely a lot more to talk about, concerning this issue. We can only thank you for now for your intervention in the conversation. Major General Henry Ayola is a retired Army officer and former commander of Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
As well as Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, former Navy intelligence officer. Thank you for joining us this morning. We'll take a short break now, and Sunrise Daily returns with some health issues. Stay with us.